for a selfie. Charley obliged and made sure to say something positive to everyone who approached, like, "I like your earrings, Chemo," or "Thank you for your Instagram post, Malu." She knew how much a kind word from your favourite star could mean. Of course, wherever Charley went, George was sure to follow, usually with his camera in hand. He perched in the corner of the foyer, filming at just the right distance to capture everything without making Charley's fans feel intimidated. As the queue came to an end, Sam appeared at Charley's shoulder. "Don't forget we've got that interview with Radio KCAC for the US tour," he said. "We can do it backstage." "Oh yes," exclaimed Charley. "I nearly forgot." Although she had already posed with everyone who wanted a photo, there were still a few fans lingering in the foyer to catch one last glimpse of her. Charley Parker, the girl who had recently rocketed to stardom. "Thanks, everyone," Charley smiled. "I hope to see you all again." As the group smiled and waved, one lone voice cut through. "Thank you for coming to Amsterdam. It seems you made quite a splash." There were laughs all round. "That was quick," Charley said to George with a grin. "Turns out you do understand the internet." George Carling focused his camera on his best friend and zoomed in a little. Charley had returned to the backstage couch and was perched over Sam's battered old phone, which was wedged between the bananas and the trail mix. Sam always insisted Charley's phone interviews be conducted on speakerphone so he could hear everything that was said. "You're listening to Ronnie D on Radio KCAC," said a very excited American woman. "And I'm joined live from Amsterdam by the one and only Charley P." "Hello," said Charley. "So, for our listeners who don't know, how did you become so famous so quickly, Charley?" Charley flashed her eyes to George. Not only did he know the answer, he was the answer. "Well," she began, "it all started when my friend George filmed me singing in our classroom one day and posted the video online." George had first spotted Charley Parker across the schoolyard of Rokesbourne High School. One of the advantages of using a wheelchair was that sometimes he saw the world on a different level to everyone else. This was also one of the reasons George thought he'd make a good comedian one day. While all other heads were turned towards the football rocketing across the concrete or the tennis ball flying through the air, George saw Charley. She was the new girl, dark-haired, already with a purple streak, and wearing Doc Martens, sitting on her own and singing to herself. She didn't seem to realise anyone was watching her, and probably thought that no one cared anyway. George cared, and he saw, and he listened. And one day, George had an idea. "Oh my God!" crowed Ronnie D from KCAC. "You guys sing in the classroom? English schools sound like so much fun. Do you know Harry Potter?" No, I think he goes to a different school," answered Charley, catching George's eye and grinning. "And I wasn't actually singing during a lesson. I just happened to be eating lunch in the classroom that day." George could still picture the whole scene in his mind. The day had been particularly blustery, and the wind had whipped up the students' energy like a mini tornado, which was why George had decided to have lunch in Miss Fairbairn's classroom. Being susceptible to other people's energy was another asset he thought would make him a good comedian. When Charley had walked into the classroom, belting out a song George had never heard before, he hadn't been sure if she'd even noticed him, but he'd started filming anyway. "Heart thief," Charley had sung. "You're nothing but a heart thief." Right, I'll be honest, at this point, as the author, not telling the story, I have to tell you Charley sings way better than I do, like way better. But anyway, I'll get back to the story. George had been entranced by Charley's voice and presence. She'd seemed to become a totally different person when she sang. He had wondered who'd inspired the lyrics and made a mental note to never get on this girl's bad side. "Did you know he was filming you?" asked Ronnie D. "I had a feeling he might be," Charley grinned, remembering the moment she'd caught George's reflection in the cracked window of Miss Fairbairn's classroom. "Did you get all that?" she'd asked, half smirking, half frowning. "I'm sorry," George had blurped. "I'm so sorry." "Are you sorry for filming me, or sorry for not getting it all?" quizzed Charley as she spun round to face him. "Both. No, the first one. What are you going to do with the video?" asked Charley. "I don't know. Maybe send it to the person who wrote the song and tell them you've stolen their tune?" George joked. "I wrote the song," cried Charley. "So if you send it anywhere, you're technically stealing my tune." She strode over until she towered over George, her hands on her hips. Most people were too scared to even approach the kid in the wheelchair, let alone threaten him with physical violence. George was strangely impressed. Charley was treating him like she would treat any other person she'd just caught filming her without her consent. I